This is an emotive topic because income is special to all of us. For many years, since 1970, it's a trusted brand. It's a brand that Singaporeans identify with. It's a brand that Singaporeans trust. And for many of us, that is our first policy. If you go to NS, that was your first policy. And that is why this is something which we all care about and care about deeply. And all members do so. And can I also just say that because it's something we care about, we all want the best for NTUC Income. We want the best for Singaporean policyholders. We want the best for Singapore. And therefore, you've raised these questions. But there are different views about this on the ground. There are different views about this in the House. And there are also different approaches to how NTUC Enterprise, as well as Income, will have to deal with the realities on the ground. And so the question is whether NTUC Enterprises and Income's approach is the right one. Because that's what the discussions has been publicly. Whether NTUC Enterprises and Income's approach is the right one. Time is the best judge, but let me again maybe put it out very clearly that number one, Income's capital buffers have been under pressure. There is no doubt about this. And in fact, if you think about the insurance industry, there are also other insurance companies and financial institutions who have gone through repeated financial crises, be it Asian financial crisis, global financial crisis, SARS, or the pandemic that has just passed, COVID-19, where they have been unable, for example, or have faced challenges to adhere to capital adequacy ratios and solvency standards. And therefore, NTUC Enterprise had to put in capital injections of up to, it's publicly known, about to 630 million. But it cannot do so alone, and it cannot do in perpetuity. So that's one, the financial capital adequacy that is the reality that Income faces. The second reality is that both in the private insurance market as well as the public insurance market, the landscape has changed. The landscape has changed. In the public insurance market, government over time has stepped in, provided very comprehensive healthcare, comprehensive insurance, and therefore that it has become more competitive for Income. On the private space, because we have a well-regulated insurance industry with a whole variety and suite of options for our for Singaporeans to choose from, Income also finds itself in that competitive space. So this is why, these are the rationales which they have articulated, and these are the realities. Now, then it also begs the question then, right? Could Income and NTUC Enterprise then have looked for other funding sources, which is the questions on the ground? They have, in their statements, said that they have. They have looked at financial institutions, non-financial institutions, looked at financial institutions and non-financial institutions, locally and foreign. They have also tried their very best, as they had mentioned in their statement, and their preference is, they have said that their preference is that they want, ideally, the deal to be majority owned, and ideally, it will be locally. So they have tried. I mean, make no mistake about that, they have tried, and which is an answer to many of these questions that are floating on the ground. But after having tried so many of this and being cognizant of the fact of the challenges on the ground, they said Allianz has the best alignment with NTUC Income. Now, what is the purpose for that then? It's not just to address all of the challenges which I've lined out, the capital side and the competitive side, but it is also one central reason why they do so. One central reason. That is a long-term view. To protect Singaporeans for the long term. Because right now, if these challenges are apparent in the near term and the medium term, but insurance is a long-tail business, as the member would know. And if you can fulfill your liabilities now, all and good. But if you're unable to fulfill your liabilities 50 years down the road, then who picks the tab? Who picks the tab? So we can have a very good debate about the approaches. I think this is what we are trying to do. Ultimately, time will tell. It's a judgment call. That's what leadership is. That's what judgment call is, and that's what I think is really stated clearly what NTUC Enterprise, as NTUC, other income insurance, has already stated very, very clearly. So I thought this is very useful for us to put out there so that all members are very clear.